David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with a very special fountain pen review. I'm actually going to do something today that I don't believe I've ever done before, which is review the same pen brand in consecutive weeks. But there's a good reason for that. Montegrappa has released a few Game of Thrones themed pens, and this year, right before the series is set to make its return for the final 6 episodes, a new model has been released. And that one is called Winter is Here. What I'm going to do is go over the parts and features of the Montegrappa Winter is Here, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, some size comparisons, and discuss a bit about my thoughts about this upcoming season, the final season of Game of Thrones. During this video, I will be discussing events taking place in the show throughout last season or through last season, as well as some book content. But any speculation or theory crafting are my own opinions and not based in any production spoilers or anything along those lines. Thankfully, I've been able to stay spoiler-free leading up to this final season, and I'd like to keep it that way. So in the comments for this video, feel free to voice your opinion about what you feel might take place in this season, but please do not include any spoilers. Many thanks go out to the good folks at Truffet, who generously provided this pen on loan for review. While I will not be giving this pen away, they have set up a generous site-wide discount code that I'll let you know a little bit more about later. Montegrappa have released a number of Game of Thrones themed pens. I've reviewed the Targaryen model as well as the limited edition Iron Throne model. I'll put links to those reviews in the notes below if you care to check those out. Okay, let's take a look at this special pen. I don't have the box, but the box is actually nothing special. And it's nice, but it's not themed or anything out of the ordinary. But it does come with a bottle of ink. I could be mistaken, but I believe it was a blue ink. But here is the pen. This is the Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here. Because in the show, winter is no longer coming. It is here. It just knocked down the wall and it's marching toward Winterfell. This is a limited edition. It consists of 300 fountain pens in sterling silver, 300 roller balls in silver. Then there are 7 fountain pens in 18 karat gold, as well as 7 roller balls in 18 karat gold, with the number 7 representing the 7 kingdoms in Westeros. Here's a look at what the gold model looks like. The gold model retails for around $55,000. I will have to say that I do prefer this silver model. I think it fits a little bit better with the theme of the pen, as you'll see here in a little bit. There is a lot going on with this pen. First of all, it's an elaborately sculpted superstructure of sterling silver, which surrounds a core of hand-turned organic celluloid. The silver is modeled using a process called lost wax casting. It's a process in which molten metal is poured into a mold that's been created with a wax model. Once the mold is made, then the wax is melted and drained away, leaving you with a highly detailed mold to create these intricate details. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. Atop the cap sits Viserion, the undead ice dragon. There is some really nice detail in this dragon. The wings wrap around each side and his claws tightly grip the cap. The ridge of his spine comes over the top of the cap and it makes its way down the back where it wraps itself around the entire base of the cap. Viserion's head is pretty cool. His eyes are light blue stones. I don't believe that they are gemstones or precious. And then he is breathing ice, which is a crystal blue enamel-covered piece, which is actually a functioning clip. The clip is hinged, and Viserion's head actually tilts back a little bit when it is functioning. And that at 107 grams, this is a very heavy pen, but this clip is actually functional. I've tried putting it in a dress shirt pocket, and it wasn't too bad. It was doable. To give you an idea about how heavy 107 grams is, a Lamy Safari weighs about 20 grams. So this equates to almost 5.5 safaris. I really like the underlying celluloid. I feel it looks really sharp, and it fits very much in with the theme of the pen. I would like to have a pen just in this celluloid material. I think it looks really nice. I like how it peeks through underneath the dragon. Near the end of the cap, it is actually engraved with the Montegrappa logo on one side, and on the other side, it has the maker's mark and 925 representing the sterling silver. The band is just an extension of the cap material, and then there is a small step down to the barrel. On the barrel, we have two figures. On one side, there is the Night King. Now, this can be a little bit confusing. This character here is the main villain of Game of Thrones, and he is the Night King. He is the leader of the White Walkers and the commander of the undead army of Whites. Now, that's Whites, Wights, not the color white. These are basically undead folks that the Night King has resurrected to fight as his army. The confusing part is that in the books, there's actually a different character called the Night's King with an apostrophe S. This character has never been seen in the show. He was the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, which would mean he lived maybe around 8,000 years before the current show time frame. The Night's King supposedly fell in love with a female White Walker, married her, and then ruled over the wall for 13 years, until he was defeated by a combination of Stark and Wildling forces. Okay, then to make things a little bit more confusing, the Night King isn't even a character in the books, at least not yet. In the books, the White Walkers are kind of an off-page threat, something which obviously will change during the final 2 books of the series, whenever those are eventually released. The detail on the armor is very nice. On his breastplate is the Night's King's sigil, which can be found in a number of locations on this pen. It's on the nib, as well as it's on the cap of the included bottle of ink. At the feet of the Night King are some skulls, and there's a raven there as well. On the other side of the barrel, there is a White Walker standing with a spear. Again, the detail on this guy, especially on his face, is pretty cool, in my opinion. Between the two figures, it actually says Game of Thrones. I could have done without the text in this size and location. Maybe if it would have been on one of the nameplates. But there's just something about the text there that I found a little bit off-putting. Below the White Walker, there is a second maker nameplate, and then at the end of the barrel, there is a piston knob, and on the end of the pen, there is the number of this limited edition. The cap unscrews, and underneath, we have a very nice looking number 6 sized 18 karat gold nib. On the nib is, like I mentioned before, is the Night's King's sigil, and below that, it's engraved with Montegrappa. This nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, double broad, and a 1.1 stub. And then here's a look at the ebonite feed. The section is slightly concave, and it really smoothly transitions into the metal threads. On the metal here, on one side is engraved with Montegrappa, and on the other side it says Made in Italy. Behind the threads, the cellular material angles up where it meets with the silver overlay. I find this section to be very comfortable. The transition between the celluloid and the metal here is very smooth, and the threads are blocky enough that they are not uncomfortable if your grip rests directly on them. I also like that this piece is angled up. I feel that it functions much better than if there was a large step up to the barrel. And you can tell that this is a very uneven surface, so it does have a rather interesting feel on your hand when you're using the pen. The cap actually does post, and it will post securely, but there is no way that I would recommend doing so. This is a very heavy cap, and it extremely backweights the pen, really throwing off the balance considerably, so no one's going to want to do that. This is a piston filler. When you twist the piston knob, it does have a bit of a ratcheting feel to it, but without the loud audible clicking like they have in some Montegrappa pens. It's very nice. So now, before we move on, let's take a look at some measurements and some size comparisons. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here. Here it is with a few other very large pens. Here it is with a Pilot Custom Urushi. Then here it is with a Wall Eversharp Deco Band. And then here it is with a Pelican M1000. Then in regard to some other pens, here it is with a Montblanc 149. Then here it is with a Lamy All-Star. And then finally, something that I actually picked up at the pen show in Atlanta here this past week. Here it is with a Sailor King of Pen in Royal Tangerine. Something that I most definitely will have to be reviewing in the near future, but am enjoying greatly. And that's what it looks like in regard to that pen as well. I know we've seen some close-up pictures, but I just want to kind of give it a 360 view so you can kind of see everything. That this dragon on top is just amazing and very cool. And like I mentioned, you can actually see his head go back and forth as you use the clip. And then you can also see the Night King here, as well as the White Walker on this side. And they're very detailed and very cool. The Montegrappa Game of Thrones Winter is Here model retails for $5,500. As I mentioned earlier, the 18 karat gold model retails for around $55,000. I have said it many times previously, but when you are in the market for a pen like this, you are not just buying a pen. You are buying a piece of art, a conversation piece. And this pen is definitely both of those. Now, I am not in the market for a $5,500 pen, but I will say that I was very impressed with this model. There are a lot of things here that I feel are very cool. Now, obviously, this is a pen for a Game of Thrones fan, which I happen to be one of. And I really feel that Montegrappa has done an excellent job of capturing the essence of this show in this pen, as well as the other limited edition pen, the Iron Throne. The ice-breathing dragon here, wrapped around the cap, might be one of the coolest over-the-top features I've seen on a Montegrappa pen. I really like it. Now, before last season, I actually made 3 predictions about the upcoming season. I said that Clegane Bowl will happen. I said that Jon would ride a dragon. And I also said that Jaime would be the one to kill Cersei. Now, while none of those things actually happened last season, each of those 3 is still probable. So none of those 3 have been ruled out. So what about predictions going into these final 6 episodes? I would say 1, Clegane Bowl will happen. I am not giving up on that. The Hound will come face to face with his brother, or whatever is left of his brother. That is my stone cold lock pick of the season. Next up, I predict that during the upcoming battle for Winterfell, the crypts will come into play. There are a lot of bodies down in those crypts, and we know someone who can raise the dead. So I wouldn't be surprised if those buried in the crypts below Winterfell come back to life to fight for the Night King. Now, Ned, I believe, is just bones down there and doesn't have a head, but I believe that Catelyn Stark is in the crypts, and so maybe she comes back to life in an homage to Lady Stoneheart, who was a character much beloved in the books. I won't go into it, but in the books, Catelyn is still around, and she's known as Lady Stoneheart, and she's riding around seeking revenge for the Red Wedding. The last prediction I have is that Bran will warg into Viserion and take control of him. And I'm thinking that during that time, he'll either sacrifice the dragon or the Night King will kill the dragon because he knows Bran is inhabiting him. The thing is that if you kill something that has someone who is warged into them, it really prohibits them from returning to their own body. And so by doing so, the Night King would be eliminating Bran as a weapon. Finally, who do I predict will be sitting on the Iron Throne at the end of the series? There are a lot of prophecies and foreshadowing in the books and on the show. It has been laid out in the books that there will be a return of an ancient hero named Azor Ahai, who will lead the Seven Kingdoms to victory. And it was said that Azor Ahai defeated his greatest enemy by plunging his sword into his wife's heart. It just might be the case that in order to defeat the Night King, either Jon or Daenerys will need to sacrifice the other in order to save the kingdom. And in the grand scheme of things, usually people from Game of Thrones or characters from Game of Thrones don't get what they want. And Daenerys has always wanted the throne. And Jon has never wanted the throne. So I'm predicting that Jon will actually have to sacrifice Daenerys, and in the end, he will be sitting on the throne. Tyrion will be his hand, and Sam his maester. Thanks again go out to Truffet for the loan of this very nice pen. If you would care to check out this pen on their site, I'll have a link in the notes below. In regard to the discount code I mentioned earlier, for the remainder of April 2019, you can use the code Figboot at checkout to receive a site-wide 10% discount, which is excluding their monthly subscription services. I am really looking forward to this final season of Game of Thrones. I have confidence that the showrunners know what they're doing and will deliver a satisfying conclusion to this amazing series. So, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.